Hello there. What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about X-Wing Wave 8 ? Because it's not confirmed yet, not officially announced yet, but it kind of leaked, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. Before I get into it, though, I do want to thank my sponsor, Luxury Playstyle. If you would like to save 15% on the most amazing tokens, use code Crabbok VIP. Check them out, luxuryplaystyle.com. Full metal tokens for X-Wing, as well as tokens for lots of other games as well. Definitely check them out. Definitely use my code. You're going to help the channel by doing that. You're also going to save 15%. Very, very cool. So definitely check those out. They're amazing. All right, so X-Wing Wave 8. There was this big leak that came out of Europe. You may have seen this. I've been talking about it a little bit. There's a whole bunch of stuff that apparently went to retailers saying, hey, what do you want to pre-order? Now, this is obviously suspect. And primarily because of the first three items, which were canceled, quote unquote. I put that in quotation marks because I never believed it for a second when they said that these were canceled, and I've been calling it from the beginning. Saw's Renegades, the TIE Reaper, and the Imperial Raider, they have had them, the 2.0 versions, reprinted and redone. They've had them. They had them at last Gen Con. I've seen them. They're in videos. They can't convince me that they decided not to make them when I've already seen them. So, they've already got box art done. They decided not to make them a week before they were supposed to be in stores or thereabouts. It's like, no. Well, they decided not to sell them, But anyway, long story short, the Saw's Renegades, the TIE Reaper, and the Imperial Raider all were kind of last minute canceled when they realized, hey, we still got a lot of the 1.0 version of this stuff in warehouses, an overabundance, and if we release the 2.0 version, nobody's ever going to buy up the old stock of the 1.0 versions, and that's kind of what happened. And so basically it seems like possibly these are either they've sold the older ones and maybe they're finally getting ready to release the 2.0 versions, which is a big maybe. But they've got some other things in there. The TIE RB, a Continental WT. We don't really know what that is. But that's not the focus of this video, because the focus for me is drawn to the bottom four expansions, because in between all of that, we've got the Xi class, the Lat-I, and the HMP droid gunship, which are Wave 7, which got a lot of people confused, saying, hey, wait a second, why is Wave 7's only a three-ship expansion? Well, maybe that wasn't really supposed to be Wave 7, right? Because, look, there's been things, like a lot of little mistakes have been happening. Over the past year, FFG's had a lot of little problems or whatever, and it could be that somebody just accidentally published a little preview for sale of like three things, because they didn't actually make an article for these. Instead of, announcing them, it was leaked, and it was leaked through the Asmodee store, and so then they, like the next day, they came out with the article, oh, by the way, this is Wave 7. Might not have actually been Wave 7. Maybe all this stuff is Wave 7. Maybe. Or maybe not. Now, the real thing that draws my attention to this, I would suggest that maybe, the TIE RB and the Continental WT, and I want to talk more about those in a different video, because I think those are worthy of some discussion all on their own. But if you look at the SKUs, the numbers, right, the product numbers, those are all in line with Wave 7. They seem like they're close. Now, Saw's Renegades, the Reaper, and the Raider are all much earlier in the queue because, hey, they have been announced long time ago. So that's fine. They wouldn't be in production at the same time as the other stuff. But if we look through the TIE RB all the way up through the HMP droid gunship, all those numbers are sequential, indicating there's a chance that they were actually all made together and planned, at least at some point, to be released at the same time or in very close proximity. Now, we see a jump after the HMP to the ETA 2 here. Now, this is still like an alleged leak that was sent to retailers in Spain, I believe, and made its way through Facebook, and it's been all over the place. The only reason I give it such credibility is that all of these leaks that we've had for multiple Fantasy Flight games and multiple Star Wars games over the past 2 years or so have all pretty much held up. Like, there hasn't been a single instance of a leak that really made its way around that people dismissed and that was like proven false. They've all pretty much been accurate. So, with that in mind, I kind of have to give this a little bit of credibility. But I'm still putting out there the disclaimer. It may not be true. So we got the ETA 2. The ETA 2 is got a different number, right? It jumped 7 numbers from 71 to 79. Well, guess what? There's 7 numbers in between there, 72 through 78. That's the damage dex, right? So, like, the numbers kind of match up, and the damage dex could very well have just not been part of a release because they're an accessory, so they don't really go part of a wave. But that makes a good bridge point for these bottom 4 to effectively not really be in the same wave as Wave 7's numbers. So that's why I think we're looking at 4 new ships that are going to be Wave 8. And there may be more stuff in Wave 8 that maybe just wasn't available for pre-order yet, but I'm going to talk about these ships, and you guys can also let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys what you think in the comments. So first up, and also, I do read the comments. I'm not able to respond to all of them anymore, but I know it was suggested, hey, when you talk about a ship, can you put the pictures up there? So we're going to do that, because I think that helps, because not everybody is familiar with just a name, a nomenclature, and what a ship is. So it looks like, if this is Wave 8, and that's kind of where I'm basing this video on, we're getting 4 ships in Wave 8. Now, this hasn't been announced yet. Could be very, very different, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens between now and a few months from now, maybe Gen Con timeframe, end of July, early August, whenever we get some type of actually announcement or some official word on what's coming over the next, 12 months or so from Fantasy Flight. But I do expect these 4 ships to be included in that. Now, the ETA 2 is basically your, it's strange to me because this is like your Jedi fighter. This is, I think we're going to see Yoda in this thing, but this is going to be like very much like an Ace Interceptor kind of ship. At least that's kind of where it feels like it is in the canon. And the funny thing to me is I'm surprised, and I initially wasn't sure if this was going to be true, because the ETA 2 and the Nimbus V-Wing are both kind of filling very similar roles. Now, they're not identical, and there is certainly room for both of them, but because at least from my knowledge of them in other games and my knowledge of them in the canon, they seem like they're a little bit more similar than I would expect to be in the same wave, if that makes sense. And let me know if you agree, if that seems odd to you. Now, they are going to perform different roles, but I'll talk about these two, because the V-Wing was seen very little in the Clone Wars. Actually, you probably recognize the V-Wing from Episode 3. It was actually on screen very little time, but it did actually help guide that giant ship in that first act when Obi-Wan and Anakin save the Chancellor. Spoilers if you haven't seen the prequels, right? And the half of the ship, when they land half of the ship, like this was featured in that scene. So you might recognize the V-Wing from that. But the idea is that it entered service very late in the Clone Wars and was also used in the early days of the Empire, but I don't think they will make the V-Wing as an Imperial ship just because, well, the Clone Wars needs it more and the Empire's got enough stuff. So, but I figure this is, it performs as an interceptor role in Battlefront 2, and it's very equivalent to kind of like the TIE Interceptor. And so I imagine this will be kind of like a very fast ship that will be maybe a cross between a TIE Interceptor and an A-Wing, maybe somewhere in there. But this is probably going to be one of the ships that you have clone pilots for. And that's going to be, I think, the big difference between the V-Wing and the ETA 2. Because the V-Wing, I expect you're going to have clone pilots for. I don't think I know of any particular clones who have been known to fly in the V-Wing. So I don't know any canon entries of like, oh, well, this particular clone flew a V-Wing in this timeline. And maybe from the novelizations or the comics or the books or some of the other stuff that maybe I've missed. But the ETA 2, I think we're going to see Yoda. Because, hey, Yoda flies one of these in Battlefront 2. So you've got that. I think it's possible you might see Anakin in one of these again. That makes a lot of sense. He actually, Darth Vader even flies his ETA 2 from the Clone Wars and all the through the many years well into the Empire's time. So he's very good in here, and I think you're going to see an extremely deadly Anakin in here. I think this will probably even be a 3-attack ship. We'll see if I'm right or wrong in that one, but maybe maybe less tanky than the Delta 7. Like it's really tough to kind of put your finger on exactly where this one will be. But I definitely expect to see Yoda as a pilot. I'm really hoping, really hoping to see Yoda as a pilot if we do the ETA 2. And then the big difference between these is obviously going to be initiative and, of course, force points. The ETA 2 will presumably be able to take an astromech, whereas the V-wing presumably will not. And that's I think that's some of the differences you're going to see with those. Now moving on to the droids, the droid Tri-Fighter. Is what you see here. This is the Tri-Fighter, also seen in Battlefront 2. Also is known for its interceptor style role, and it's certainly something I think that the droids are missing right now, especially if you're flying, like droid specific separatist lists. So I think this will fit in perfectly. I think this one was a given, and as especially because of its inclusion in Battlefront 2, and it fits a very archetypal role. I wouldn't be surprised if this one did some kind of bullseye arc shenanigans because of the way it handles in Battlefront 2, and has a very dedicated full auto kind of fire straight ahead of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if it does something like that. I expect this to be potentially very deadly. I expect this to be very much like a glass cannon, something that will be probably more expensive than your other swarm ships, but still, because it's a droid ship, still presumably cheap enough that you can run, say, 5 of them in a build. I don't think they'll be too expensive. But what I do think will be expensive, Jango Fett's Slave 1. Now, the Slave 1 is a scum ship. I think Jango Fett's Slave 1 is going to be a separatist ship. And I say that because, well, we don't really need another Slave 1, and I don't think we really need another scum ship right now. Now, you scum players are probably flipping me off. But, I mean, as far as, balancing out the factions, right? We're getting stuff, in some of the other, we need to get a lot more clone stuff because they're the newest factions, so they have the fewest things. Arguably, we could also stand to get more resistance and First Order stuff, and I think that is coming. But I also think that if we're going to see more scum stuff, I think The Mandalorian has the door wide open for lots of scum and villainy stuff. So I don't think we need to pull bounty hunters that worked for separatist leadership, that were basically aligned with the separatists during the Clone Wars. Presumably when they do Cad Bane, which I'm sure they will do at some point, he will probably be a separatist also. I don't think he'll be scum and villainy. Now, it is possible that they will allow, some like Cad Bane and Jango Fett and bounty hunters from the Clone Wars to at some point somehow work with scum and villainy. They may come with extra cards, or it may just be an Aces pack or a scum and villainy pack that comes at some point that has alternate cardboard. But I think at least at launch, it makes sense for the Jango Fett's Slave 1 to be a separatist ship, and I think that's what will happen. Also, that would kind of match up with the ETA 2 and Nimbus. If the Republic's going to get 2 ships, why shouldn't the separatists get 2 ships? So it's just, if this leak is correct, then they're definitely going to do this. I expect this ship to handle very, very similar to how the existing Slave 1 handles, although it might be a little better because during this time it was new. Presumably brand new. I've said presumably a lot of times so far today, haven't I? I've lost count. I don't have a counter for presumably, but I've said it quite a bit. So I'm going to use a different word now. This ship is likely brand new during the Clone Wars. I mean, Jango's armor was very, very shiny and certainly looked brand new. So there's a good chance, it stands to reason, that Jango's Slave 1 will be a little better and perhaps even more expensive than the scum Slave 1. So I'm going to be interested to see when they do a release article, or at least an announcement or a reveal article on some of this stuff. And it'll be really interesting to see what ends up coming out of it. So that's just my kind of rundown for what I think will be Wave 8. But I would love to hear from you guys. Also, there's still time left to enter to win the giveaway for the $25 Amazon gift card. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. If you don't win this one, I do new giveaways all the time, so don't worry about it. You're gonna you're always entered to win, even if you don't win this. And they usually run for about 2 weeks at a time. I usually announce the winners towards the end of my videos, so I kind of want you to watch all the way through. Admittedly, that's kind of the whole theme of it all. Big thanks to my patrons. I want to talk about Patreon here for just a minute because I don't talk about it a whole lot, but I really do appreciate the patrons. I am probably looking at adding some additional functionality to Patreon this year. Adding for like the length of time that you've been a patron and higher, special gift random rewards and stuff like that, as well as looking for new rewards for new tiers as well. And but also just lots of promos and giveaways, and in addition to names in the credits, the Discord channel, all kinds of cool stuff you get as a patron. And on top of that, you help support the channel. So I really thank you guys so much. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of close it out. But I do want to thank you all so much for your continued support. You guys are amazing. So thank you. And as always, have a great day. As a matter of fact, have a double critical day.